Excuse me, can you tell me where the business office is?
Yes, the business office is right behind you, behind the gift shop.
In 1990, people over 65 made up 12% of the population of the United States.
Hoopla! Hoopla!
By 2020, it is predicted that older adults will make up 20% of the population.
Hoopla!
Back in 1900, when Joan Erikson's grandmother was 65, people lived to an average age of about 45 years. Now life expectancy is closer to 80 years. Previously, some individuals lived to advanced ages, but not entire populations of them. We are having to develop new attitudes, services, and ways of thinking about old age to accommodate this change.
Mercer brothers. Now this year they are 81 and 84. Not bad. Not bad.
Hello, I'm Monisha Pashupathy, and I'm currently working at the Max Planck Institute for Human Development in Berlin, Germany. I'm doing research on aging there, based on the work of Paul and Margret Baltes. We've swapped homelands temporarily. They're in Stanford, California this year, and I'm in Berlin.
For some 25 years, I have conducted psychological studies on human aging, on such topics as memory, intelligence, and wisdom, in what is possible regarding the future of old age. To put it all together, my wife, Margret Baltes, colleagues and I have developed a theory of successful lifespan development. We call this theory SOC, SOC. In our view, this is the way people age well.
SOC stands for Selection, Optimization, and Compensation. It will be discussed later in more detail in the film. In my own research during the past 20 years, I have focused on how older people become dependent and how they use dependency as a compensating strategy. Being dependent involves both gains and losses. I have called this the model of learned dependency.
In this video, we are arbitrarily defining old age as the 2 decades between 65 and 85. We will not discuss in any depth extreme old age, the years from about 85 on. We will discuss the traditional inverted U-shaped model of development in relation to some of the things we now know about the cognitive and personality characteristics of older people. We will then look at a model of adaptive successful competence, SOC, and the psychological components that go into creating individually satisfying life situations for older people.
You're going to have a nice Thanksgiving for your family?
I hope so.
The traditional view of development is that of an inverted U. There's an upward movement, then stability, followed by a downward movement. Development has been seen as increasing abilities and participation in the early years of life, leveling off in the middle-aged years, and falling off in old age. Now, what we can change, of course, in this inverted U curve is the steepness and the timing of the age peak. In terms of sheer physical strength, this inverted U-shaped curve seems quite apt. 13-year-old athletes are usually more able than 4-year-olds, but less so than young adults. For some physical activities, the inverted U is very steep and narrow, and more gentle and wide in some others. Obviously, there is much variation between people of the same age in any physical activity one cares to mention. Practice and the physical condition of the person are always important variables for athletes. Age alone cannot determine ability. And of course, the more one practices a skill or exercises a muscle, the later the decline begins. Although the inverted U curve is true for most physical activity, it does not always generalize to psychological functioning.
咁而家假㗎嚇，你而家開呢個 screen 咧，就係你隨便 click 邊度都得啦。
In intellectual functioning, some components have an early peak, and others continue to evolve longer, reflecting the benefits of experience and practice.
一個 space 一行 enter two times once more enter OK 好啦。
Okay, today we have a few tasks that we're going to do, and we're going to do them on the computer. These tests measure the mechanics of intelligence, that is, speed and accuracy of information processing. In these tests, the performance peak is early in life. Their apex is in early adulthood, and the decline starts, on average, between age 30 to 40, and sometimes even earlier.
Come on.
Indeed, people over 70 rarely perform as well on the mechanics of intelligence as people who are in their 20s or 30s, although, of course, there is much variability between individuals.
Light, dark, light. There is no dark D.
Let's try one more time. Exactly. Okay. The mechanics of intelligence behave like physical strength, with a peak in early midlife and decline thereafter. Thus, Paul Baltes and others propose that there are two types of intellectual performance, one more related to biology and the other more related to culture. The first, which they term fluid mechanics, is subject to age-related losses after a certain early peak. The fluid mechanics type of mental functioning involves the speed and accuracy of elementary aspects of sensory cognitive processing. In this test, for example, people must process visual information quickly and accurately. The fluid mechanics are largely biologically based, like the hardware of the brain.
Whoops, that was wrong.
The second kind of intellectual functioning, labeled crystallized pragmatics of cognition, can continue to grow in healthy old age. These are largely culturally based. They are learned from social interactions, formal education, and through participation in culture.
I mean, this is one of Lily Hahn. She lives here and she does this beautiful work, and it's only about $28. I mean, where can you get something like this? It's absolutely fantastic.
These crystallized pragmatics include reading and writing skills, professional skills, and knowledge about strategies to manage the highs and lows of life.
Your way to make this day brighter.
I think that's
I'd like to have
very
that.
pretty card.
Paul Baltes and his research group, of which I am currently a part, have come to think that wisdom is one of these bodies of knowledge that can develop well into old age. In wisdom, the experiences and teachings of life come together. The Berlin Research Group defines wisdom as an expert knowledge system of the fundamental pragmatics of life, permitting exceptional insight, judgment, and advice, involving complex and uncertain matters of the human condition. In wisdom, the best of mind and character function together. The Paul Baltes Group has developed a method to measure wisdom by means of a standardized interview. The actual interview deals with several problems of life, but this segment will give you a sense of it. This task is about the life problem of a fictitious or an imaginary person.
A 14-year-old girl absolutely wants to move out of her family home immediately. What should one do and consider? We need to consider the problem that this 14-year-old girl wants to leave her family. If it's a legitimate problem, if she can get help with her family or people close to her family, it would be better for her than for leaving the home. At 14 years old, it's rather difficult to face life on your own.
A 14-year-old girl absolutely wants to move out of her family home immediately. What should one do and consider? Well, they shouldn't let her do it. I mean, kids are, they're out of hand these days, you know? And if this country is going to survive, the kids have got to learn what we had to learn when we were kids. You know, you do what your parents tell you to do.
And they experiment. That's part of it. Testing, you know, themselves and their family and the outside world. I think it's not any one thing. It's a whole conglomerate of things in their life.
What we have found is that living long in itself certainly is not a guarantee of attaining wisdom.
Why does she want to leave? Is she on drugs? I mean, I hear these days they start when they're in grade school.
But the lifetime peak for wisdom is later in life. People over 60 are among the very best on our measures of wisdom.
That's very difficult to say. Of course, it depends on the conditions under which she is living. If there's an abusive family, it may be better for her to get away, but not to run away. Possibly have some friends, have a plan.
From our research, most old people are not wise according to our definition, but a higher percentage of old people are wise in comparison to younger people. More than half of the top responses in this ongoing research have come from people between 50 and 70 years of age.
Excuse me, Mom, where is pediatrics at?
It's down the hallway, but I'll show you how to get here.
Okay, thank you.
Wisdom is not just a matter of intelligence in the narrow, mechanical sense. Rather, personality and cognitive style are part of wisdom. In fact, if we want to know who would perform well on our measures of wisdom, personality and cognitive style are more important than intelligence.
Yes, at the halfway house, and well, that was one of the most enjoyable jobs I've had. See, because I learned so much doing that.
The personality factors and cognitive styles that the Berlin Max Planck Group has found predictive of wisdom are being open to new experiences, having flexibility in thinking, being creative, and empathetic.
Hi, little seal. Yay.
These personality factors, as well as others like them, seem to remain amazingly stable over the lifespan.
I'm enjoying my age. I didn't enjoy it then because I had to work so hard. So I'm really enjoying myself.
Personality is more stable over years than intelligence. It does not change much with age. Psychological measurements of major personality traits, such as extroversion, openness to experience, agreeableness, and conscientiousness, show that these qualities stay at the same levels far into old age. The same is true for measures of personal well-being and life satisfaction. So, on personality measures and some cognitive measures, such as wisdom, the traditional model of the life course as an inverted U does not hold. Personality is less affected by physical aging than are the mechanics of intelligence or vision or hearing. How we age, then, is not just a matter of physical changes. Our minds can outwit our bodies and take on lives of their own. Better medical care and health practices have extended life for millions of people, and this has resulted in our redefinition of what old age is. Many people in their 60s are as active physically, mentally, and socially as they were in their 40s. Just as there is enormous variation in the physical, intellectual, and personality characteristics of children, teenagers, and adults, there also is a huge range of variability within older people. Age alone does not define a person, whether she is 4, 36, or 76. We see many variations when looking at old people. In very old age, however, generally after 85 and up to 100, losses do become more conspicuous and concern everyone. Very old people tend to have similar physical constraints that do limit their quality of life and what the mind can accomplish. After 85 or so, it is much more difficult to maintain vitality. Paul and Margret Baltes developed a model, SOC, initially to look at the lives of individual older people. As they've worked with it, they've realized it has utility across the entire lifespan. In this video, however, we will only focus on SOC in relation to aging well, using the lives of some individuals over 70 to illustrate the model. Annie Mickles, at 73, is a retired daycare center cook who has found satisfaction in her new volunteer work. Betty Friedan, 76, has just released a new edition of her monumentally important book, The Feminine Mystique, and taken a new position at Cornell University. Bud Mercer, half of the Mercer Brothers dance team, continues in show business at the age of 84, giving as many as 10 performances a week. Joe Murray, 66, is retired from his counseling position at a halfway house and is setting his own hours, driving his own cab. Joan Erikson's most recent book was released about the time of her 95th birthday. The Baltes contend that individuals shape their lives through a combination of 3 processes: selection, optimization, and compensation. The older we get, the more we have to pay attention to these processes.
After that, I decided to try to write, and so I left the business for a short time while my brother went on and did commercials and such on television. And my writing made me realize I was deteriorating because I wasn't getting the action I had in show business. And when the Plaza Theater started the Palm Springs Follies, that was 7 years ago, they wanted to know if I would come on back into business, so I did. And you know, we're having a wonderful, successful run.
Yeah, when I went to the office, she asked me, you know, if I'd want to cook again. And I said no, because I didn't want to be around children, no cooking, because it was just too, you know, I wanted to do something different anyway.
All of us make choices in life, by ourselves or in response to what society makes us choose. We select where to live, how to make a living, and how to combine work with leisure. Some of these choices are forced upon us, such as how to make a living. Others are based on personal preference, such as with whom we associate, or how we use our leisure time. We select from options available to us all our lives. Some of us have more options than others, but all of us make decisions on how to live all our lives. As we become older, our choices continue. In fact, because our resources and options decline, choices become more and more necessary.
I decided that it's not really a good use of my energy to teach undergraduates anymore.
Betty Friedan has choices, but not the time or energy to meet them all.
I would say to people, only ask me to do what only I can do.
There are losses in moving from one life stage to another, but oftentimes new opportunities open for us. Bud and his brother took up banjo when tap dancing was no longer so popular. We think about options we have had no time to live out so far.
Like, I am going to take a class in painting, something that would be completely new for me, painting.
In retirement, some people find new occupations or activities. Sometimes these are more fulfilling than those that paid their way before.
I enjoy this because I meet new people and go and help other people, and it's just beautiful to do. And I'm really enjoying this instead of cooking.
As Annie Mickles has done, successful agers optimize their opportunities. She knows that she likes working with people and has actively sought an arena where she can flourish, and she continues to work at doing it better. She has sought out the ways and means of reaching her personal goals. Joe Murray likes the ability to set his own hours and meet with a variety of people.
Meeting people, you know, that's enjoyable. You know, from different walks of life, all over the world. That's enjoyable. I appreciate that.
Bud Mercer sought out a theater in which he can do the kind of performing he likes doing, and where the audience comes to him instead of doing the road traveling he did for vaudeville shows in his youth.
Right after television cut us off from live shows, I had to get another job because I had the family still to raise. And I was very fortunate in getting in with the space program and work with the new ideas coming into the space, and it was a wonderful job.
The more flexible one's self-image, the more one takes advantage of opportunities in life. Bud Mercer has been able to change the focus of his career several times to meet changing circumstances. Having multiple interests and a wide range of skills is a good preparation for old age. But as we age, we lose some of the skills needed to reach some goals. For instance, the speed of our thinking and our motor coordination slows. We need to find ways to compensate. Bud and his brother used to be able to make spectacular leaps, but now they do the less taxing waltz clog. Bud Mercer and his brother compensate for their inability to perform some of the dance tricks they could do when they were young by emphasizing the humor of their act.
You dance with your whole body all the time. You don't let this little finger do tiddlywinks while something else.
Joan Erikson was also a dancer. She found new ways of moving in her old age that permitted her to enjoy the physical movement that she cherished.
And down, and up, and down.
Joe Murray compensates for his declining strength by working fewer hours when he is tired.
I'll quit when I get so I can't get up in the morning and feel good going out to my job, you know.
Selection, optimization, and compensation are strategies we use all our lives, according to the Baltes. Some people are better, and some are worse at using these strategies. In old age, successful agers apply them to create good lives for themselves. In response to the unique set of challenges they face, they select, optimize, and compensate.
If we could get in our consciousness, we haven't yet, that we are going to live this 80-year lifespan, then I think, you know, we could relax more and realize that we can do an awful lot of things, and they don't have to do them all at once. And we could be much more open to risk, to adventure, and even in our career thinking. We say from the beginning, well, I might have 2 careers, I might have 3 careers, and have some parts of life where I don't have a career necessarily, and be comfortable with that. You know, in other words, would loosen our thinking a lot.
Another way to speak of this process of managing the gains and losses of old age is to speak of adaptive competence. Adaptive competence is the ability to draw on an extensive knowledge system about one's functioning in the world and a flexible ability to problem solve, thus effectively managing the opportunities and challenges of life. It is here where Margret Baltes' work on dependency in old age is especially relevant. In our independence-oriented society, dependence is often viewed negatively. Margret Baltes' studies have shown how in some contexts, like nursing homes, dependency is reinforced or fostered by staff members. It is easier for nursing home staff to work with passive patients than feisty ones who want to dress themselves even when it takes much longer.
I want to do it myself. Let me
you now.
Margret Baltes calls this the dependency support script. But dependency is not only bad, it can also be a useful compensatory tool for old people who selectively use it to avoid difficult or tiring tasks so they can concentrate their energies on life-enhancing ones.
Get my sleeves down. You get that one, please? Yes. That feels better.
It is in the context of dependency that older people, particularly older people in nursing homes, often get their share of meaningful social contact. In general, social contact is very important at any age. But research has repeatedly shown the necessity of social interactions to the health of older people. Social isolates generally lead shorter and more sickly lives. The risk of being isolated increases as more losses of relatives, neighbors, and friends occur. Thus, it is important for old people to make new connections to avoid loneliness. For instance, older people can cultivate new connections with grandchildren and even great-grandchildren. Throughout the life cycle, developmental tasks are challenging, and their mastery involves acquiring new skills and giving up previous ways. Babies all have to learn to walk and give up crawling. For the first half of life, society provides support and ways to deal with the tasks of life. Young adults need to find work and life partners, and in doing so, leave their parents' home. The situation is different as we move from adulthood into old age. In old age, developmental tasks are far less defined. Society has not yet come up with norms for defining what makes a successful old age. In this regard, old age is itself young. Its cultural supports are still underdeveloped. We are just now absorbing the idea that aging does not inevitably reduce all mental powers or productivity until very old age, that most older people can work on learning new things if opportunities for such lifelong learning are provided. Successful aging seems to be related to dealing well with uncertainty and with the unique set of gains and losses that every older person faces. Selecting desirable situations for themselves, optimizing available opportunities, and finding compensations to manage inevitable losses and weaknesses. Older people can construct very positive lives for themselves. People who are adaptive and who thoughtfully approach this challenge, who believe in themselves, who have a good social support system, who pay attention to their health, and who have a certain sense of adventure about the unknown, seem to do best at this challenging task of being old. It is in this last stage of life where we as individuals are most challenged to select, optimize, and compensate. Mastery of these life skills can help us create desirable lives for ourselves, even in the face of loss. The evolution of life from childhood into old age is a continuous process. For thousands of years, society has worked on making all stages of life constructive ones, where gains outnumber losses. The most incomplete part of this project is old age, and more research on aging is part of completing that project. Tell us what's next in your research.
I'm interested in extending SOC from the individual to the social or collective level. We call this collective SOC. Currently, I'm designing research to look at how people age together. For instance, how husbands and wives act together in selecting, optimizing, and compensating, but also how they may be hindering each other in achieving a good life.
Over the next years, I'm most interested in moving my research into the highest ages, from age 85 to 100. I believe that's the great challenge of the next decades, to make sure that we begin to understand better how we can optimize, select, and especially compensate, so that the very old has a chance to flourish as well.